Word, WMG. Weapons of Mass Gaming, Butchie on the mic, Butchie on them post commentary sticks. I fucked up and my microphone was unplugged, man. Like I went to render the video and the in-game sound was the only sound. There was no my voice. So I checked and my little microphone Snowball was unplugged. So I have to do a little post commentary on this one, but that's okay, man. It gives me the opportunity to tell a story. In one of the Butchie book clubs I had, I was talking about To Green Angel Tower, and I was saying how I'll always remember the time in my life when I read that book, and that's a story for another time. So I feel like this is going to be that other time. I was watching this YouTube channel. It's called Sammy J Reads. It's a girl who does book reviews, and she reviews fantasy books. And she was reviewing Tail Chaser Song, which is the first book of that series. Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which is the name of the three swords in the novel, which is amazing. Like, how can you go wrong? The whole plot of the series is there's three swords called Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, and they have to get them all back. And I mean, that is a great way to start a fantasy book, if you ask me. Especially when you have a little kid. It's a coming-of-age story on top of it. It's just really good series. I highly recommend it. It's certainly Tad Williams' best. But she was reviewing Tail Chaser Song, and it just reminded me of this story, and it reminded me that I was going to tell you guys. Not so much as a story as just a time in my life. And so it's early 1990s, like 1992. I'm a fresh little 18-year-old boy, just got out of high school, and I had gotten a little bit of trouble. I got a couple tickets on, I got a speeding ticket on prom night. I got a drinking underage ticket shortly after that. I didn't pay either of them because I was 18 and stupid. And one of the local hustler, drug dealer, fucking tough guys in the neighborhood, he paid my friends and I he wanted a picnic table, so he told us he'd give us a quarter of pot for a nice picnic table. He told us specifically which one he wanted. He told us where it was. So we borrowed my buddy's truck and we stole the picnic table and we got caught. And we didn't get in that bad of trouble for it, but I had those other two tickets I hadn't paid. So they made me spend, they basically told me, you give us $1,000 or you got to spend 90 days in jail. Well, I had $270 to my name. And so obviously I couldn't afford it. I had to do the 75 days. 200 of that 275 went for rent while I was in jail. I only had to do 75 of the 90 days because you get good time, and I was a good guy and minded my P's and Q's. It was Oakland County Jail in Detroit, Michigan. So I get out of jail, and I just, growing up, living in Detroit, I had been getting in trouble my whole life. Even in, to be of age in Michigan, at least back then, I don't know what it is now, the legal adult wasn't 18 back then, I was 17. So I had been to jail when I was 17 for some overnights and some weekends, and it was all like fucking bullshit, but I just couldn't stay out of trouble. So when I got out of jail, I was like basically scared straight, or bored straight. I mean, like, county jail wasn't scary, but oh god, the invasion of privacy and the fucking boredom was just too much for me. So I was bored straight. I said, I'm never going back to jail again, but I got to get out of Detroit. I was immature, and I blamed Detroit for my problems rather than me. So the whole reason I went to jail in my head was because I lived in Detroit, not because I was acting like an ass. So I get out of jail. My dude Roger picks me up. To this day, man, thanks for picking me up from jail, Raj, man. He picked me up. He had a doobie and a Milwaukee's Best Light, ice cold, chilling in the back seat for me right when I got out, man. Roger was a great guy, man. He's an Iraqi dude. Love that kid. So he picks me up. I get out of jail. I decide I'm leaving. I'm cutting out. I'm going to get out of here. And I have a friend who had met this girl, and when she graduated from high school, she went off to Montana State University. And since Hyatt was kind of a loser and had no intentions of going to college, he followed her out there. So just the only person I knew that didn't live in Detroit. I called Hyatt up, and I was like, dude, can I come crash with you? I need to get out of Detroit. Can I come to Montana, stay with you guys for a little while? Of course, he said, yeah, he's a good guy. So I decided I was going to go stay with them. So I only had $70 to my name. But my work owed me $80. I worked at a Greasy Spoon, Blue Plate Special, 24-hour diner, just slinging hash. And we got paid under the table. So I went up to work to get my last paycheck. They owed me like $85, I think it was. So I go there. I haven't been there in fucking 3 months. I walk in the door, and right next to the cash register is a picture of me with some cell bars drawn on the picture and a collection jar in front of it that said, donations accepted for our jailbird Butch. Thought it was it was a little bit embarrassing, but it was also really funny. So there was $30 in that, and my boss gave me the $80 that he owed me, and I had like $200 to my name to go to Montana, but I didn't have a new book to read. I had read a lot while I was in jail. I was pretty current at that time. And I've always been a big reader, so I was pretty current on all of my series. So I would have had to have reread an older book, and I just, especially at 18, I wasn't feeling like starting to reread yet. And I knew that To Green Angel Tower was out, and I'd been looking forward to it for fucking like over a year. I was just dying to get it, but I needed that $200 because one, I had to buy a bus ticket to Montana, and then I needed money to get there, So first thing I do is I go buy the bus ticket. It's $100, literally, tax, everything. $100 out the door, one-way ticket to Bozeman, Montana. So I get that. I got $100 left. I go to, and the other thing is I need some pot for the trip, right? And for when I get there, because I'm not going to have a job. I'm only going to know 2 people in the whole state. They're being nice to let me sleep on their couch. I'm going to want to smoke them out. And when I got a 3-day fucking Greyhound bus trip, I bet I got to have some fucking reefer, especially at 18. So the guy that sold me pot, I don't even remember his name. He's this black guy, and he worked at the Great Steak Escape in the mall, and it was right next to the video arcade that me and my friends used to go play Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter at. So, we just walk next door, and fucking he'd sell us a dime bag. He'd let us go into the cooler and smoke, and then we'd go back in the arcade, play some video games, A couple hours later, go back like, yo, can we go smoke in the cooler? He's like, no problem. So I called dude up, and he's like, oh, I'm glad you're out of jail, good shit, brother, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, all I can afford is a dime bag. I only got $100 to get me to Montana, and I got to buy a book. And I got to buy some weed. Like, all I can afford is a dime bag. Just enough to get me a couple of hits to get me there. And then a little bit for my dude and his girlfriend when I get to Montana. So, I didn't even really know this guy that well. Like, it was just a business relationship. He wasn't, like, one of my friends. But fucking, just a fucking one of those few people in Detroit that are actually a nice guy. He felt bad that I was in jail. He felt bad that I felt like I had to leave Detroit to stay out of trouble. He knew I didn't have any money. And he's like, yo, dog, here you go. He gave me a quarter for fucking $30, but he's like, I'll give you a quarter for fucking $30. I couldn't fucking turn it down. I just could not. It was really good dope, too. So I gave him the $30 for the weed. And I was actually pretty happy, even though I spent an extra $20. It was well worth it. It was well worth it. Instead of having it, at that time, prices, we got hoe taxed in Detroit bad, especially when we were younger. It was $60 for a quarter back then. I was getting half off. That was a great deal. So then we have 2 bookstores in Pontiac, where I grew up. One's a local yokel, like little old lady owned it bookstore, and then the other one was a B. Dalton, of course. And I always went to the local place because it was closer to my house, and it was actually, that had been open since I was a little kid. The B. Dalton actually opened when I was like 13 or 14, so I rarely ever went there. But I couldn't afford To Green Angel Tower, so I decided I was going to go steal it. And obviously I'm not going to steal it from the little old lady. That bookstore was right down the street. God, I forget what the name of that bookstore was. I went there literally 1,000 times, and for some reason that memory is gone. I can't remember the name of it. But I could not steal from that lady. That lady knew me personally. Like, I was in there damn near every day, Like, maybe not every day, but certainly every week. So I wasn't going to steal from her, but I had no problem stealing from the corporate giant B. Dalton booksellers. So I went into B. Dalton to go steal to Green Angel Tower, and I walk in. The motherfucker is 1,000 pages long. It's as big as my fucking arm. There's absolutely no way I'm getting it down my pants. There's absolutely, like, I walked around that store for half an hour. I could not come up with any legitimate way in which I could boost this book. Like, other than just your straight up snatch and grab, you know. But it's Detroit. They got cameras, you know. They have a security guard at the door. So, like, outside of just, you know, a straight up fucking, you know, baller snatch and grab, don't care if they see my face, hope I avoid the fucking security guard, I'm not stealing it. So I know that's not gonna work out. So I've got fucking $70 fucking to my name, and I got to get this book. And it's like, and at this time books weren't as expensive as they are nowadays, but hardcovers are normally $20. This was the first hardcover that I saw that was over $20. It was $24.99. It was gonna cost me $30 to fucking get it. And there's just no way that I could get to Montana on $40. I mean, I could, but it is a 3-day trip, man. I did not want to have to fucking scrape and scrounge that much. Plus, I wanted a couple dollars when I got there, you know? And so I go to the local old lady bookstore, and she's like, where you been? I haven't seen you, blah, blah, blah. So I tell her the story, and I just basically tell her the same story I just told you, except for the part where except for the parts about the pot and the stealing the book from B. Dalton. But I basically told her, you know, that I couldn't afford to buy the book, but I have to have it anyway. So I'm just going to buy it. I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to get to Montana my $40. I wasn't asking her for a favor. I did not ask her for anything. I just basically told her a story because she was asking me because, you know, we had a friendly relationship. She basically watched me grow up. I started going in there when I was like 11 or 12. First book I bought from that bookstore was Sword of Shannara, by the way. Second book I bought was Dragonlance Trilogy. 2, 3, and 4 were the Dragonlance Trilogy, by the by. So she'd known me for, you know, 6, 7 years at this point. So she had asked. So I told her the story, and just her being, God, she was just so cool and nice and trusting. And like, I'd never had anyone in Detroit ever be nice to me, and then all of a sudden, 2 people in the same day were inordinately nice to me. She said, you know what, here, you just take the book. I'm going to write the address on the inside cover. You can just mail me the money when you get it. And I'm like, I swear to God, I almost cried. Like, I got a little, like, I welled up a little bit. Like, I was so thankful and so appreciative and so happy that this little old lady, like, I feel like an asshole now that I don't remember her name, but the fact that she was that trusting, knowing that I was leaving for Montana, that she was going to, you know, basically throw $25 to the wind, and she wrote the address on the inside book cover and gave me the book so I could have $70 to make it to Montana. I swear I almost cried. I definitely hugged her and told her I'd pay her back as soon as I could. So, shit, man, I'm running out of time. Fucking, I only got 3 minutes left on this video. I gotta finish this story. So I get on the bus. It's a fucking 3-day fucking bus trip. But, you know, at this point, I've got to Green Angel Tower, so I don't even give a fuck. So I started reading the book, and from Detroit to Chicago, it was a raucous bus ride, man. Like, it was all scumbags and loud people and people playing their fucking ghetto blasters and boom boxes out loud. 'Cause this is before MP3 players, so you either had a Discman or a Walkman or just a straight up fucking boom box, you know? And it was just loud and raucous. So I just put my headphones on and read my book all the way to Chicago. So then I had like an hour layover in Chicago before my bus left. So I figured I was gonna go smoke a bowl. So you know, if anyone's ever ridden a Greyhound, you know that Greyhound bus stations are always in the worst part of town. So this Greyhound bus station was on the south side of Chicago, the bad side. So it's not that big a deal to like to go smoke pot on the streets, especially circa 1992. So I get off the bus and I find a conspicuous alley. You know, there's literally some bums in there and shit, and you know, fucking piss in the corner and whatnot. But so I go in there and I'm smoking the bowl, and this fucking dude comes up to me, and he looked like a old hobo or whatever. But he's like, "Yo, you got any rolling papers?" My dumb ass is like, "Oh yeah, I got a paper here. I'll hook you up." And he's like, "Oh, I don't need it. I just want to see if you smoke pot. You want to buy some weed?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I got my own. I don't need any. Thanks though." And so like I walk away to go finish smoking my bowl, and he's like, "Hey man, here, I'm just gonna smoke with you. You want to trade off?" He's like, "I'll match you." I'm like, "Well, all right." But he was acting a little bit creepy, but I didn't want to really offend him, but I also was like, I'll hit his pot, whatever. So He hits my bowl. I hit his doobie. My pot's better than his. His has got seeds and stems in it. Like, he rolled it up like a 4-year-old. It's disgusting. And so he takes like a big hit of mine. And he's like, hey, you want to shotgun this? I'm like, no, dude, that's gross. You only shotgun with girls. That's disgusting. And he leans in, and this old motherfucker tries to he like leans in with his mouth open and tries to kiss me. I'm like, blah! So I go running out of the alley. I get on my fucking bus. I'm like, fuck Chicago, man. This sucks. Get on the bus. Next stop is Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I make it all the way to Minneapolis, St. Paul. I knock out a few hundred pages. It's great. I had a few hour layover there. I grab a bite to eat. There's a strip club right across the street from the bus station. Like, if I had had the money, I would have gone and had a beer there, but I didn't have the money. So then we get God, man, I'm running out of time. I really got to hurry this story up. I'm just gonna have to wrap it up, but the best part about it was the bus driver was a smoker, and at that time I smoked cigarettes. So we get to North Dakota, we get to the Black Hills, and bus driver says, hey, I'm gonna pull over at this really scenic view, and so we can smoke. We're gonna kick it for like a half hour. If you guys want to stay, stretch your legs. You know, if you want to stay, if we just want to stay for a couple minutes, we'll stay for a couple minutes. But if you want to stay longer, we can. It's up to you guys. We'll take a vote. So they take a vote, and everyone on there is like really cool, and they're like, yeah, let's just chill out for a minute. You know, let's stretch our legs and hang out. So I got off the bus, and I sat on this fucking rock, and I fucking was just sitting there reading to Green Angel Tower, overlooking the painted hills of fucking North Dakota during sunset, by the way. And it was one of the most beautiful, picturesque like moments of my life. I'm just sitting there smoking a cigarette, watching the sunset over the Black Hills, and they're just like every different color. It was just so beautiful. Sitting there reading one of the best books I'd ever read, and I just sat there and I just thought, you know, after these last 75 days of being in jail, life isn't so bad right now, man. If you just live it in the moment, don't live it in the past, like, life is not so bad. It was one of the best half hours of my life, man. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, it was a rambling fucking story, but I lost my commentary, so I had to throw something on there. So sorry I lost the live commentary. It was technical error. And Game 4, winner bin. I'm out. Word say word, son.